Hi guys, I'm Chrissie Zullo, and today I'm drawing my favorite Wonder Woman. Alright, so to start, I always use a mechanical pencil to do all my sketches. I've already kind of loosely started my sketch, but I'm just gonna clean up my sketch a little bit before I start inking. I try to keep my sketches really loose and just make sure all the proportions are correct and the symmetry is right. Okay, so my sketch is pretty much where I want it to be. When I go into ink, I use a Micron PN pen. And to ink, I just try to keep my lines really clean and steady and just follow the lines I've already made with my pencils. I like the Micron pens because they're almost like a brush pen, but with a little bit more control. So you can get really nice variation of thin and thick line in your sketches. It's important to focus on the eyes, because I think the eyes will really sell a drawing, and if you can really believe it as a character, you know, even if it's really animated, you want to really believe that this is a real character. A lot of people say, and I don't see it, but a lot of people say like, oh, your characters have your eyes, or your characters look like you. I don't mean to do it, but I think every artist, even if it's a really cartoony style or really stylized, you can't help but put some of yourself in your art and some of your personality in your art. So I think that kind of happens, but a little bit by mistake. Growing up, I was always into Disney movies. I really wanted to be like a Disney animator. It wasn't until high school I got more into anime, and then in college I got really into comic books, like American comic books. So I was actually really late to the comic book world. My friend, my college roommate got me really into a book called Fables. And ever since then, I fell in love with the artist who did the covers on that, an artist, James Jean. And ever since then, I knew I wanted to maybe work in comics. And I guess my style is just a weird mix of Disney and anime and comics. So it's sort of definitely influenced by all those things. I knew I wanted like my art to be stylized, not like a house style, but more cartoony and, you know, have a lot of expressions. And it took me a long time to really find my style. Even up until recently, it had been changing quite a bit. And it took me a while to kind of figure out exactly what I wanted to do with art. I just wanted it to be fun, and I wanted my characters to be, you know, I mostly draw strong female characters, so it was important to me to not like over-sexualize or, you know, make it something for everyone, like whether it's for, you know, a 6-year-old girl or, you know, an older guy. Like I wanted my art to be something that everyone can enjoy. And I actually got started in comics at San Diego Comic-Con. I had went to art school and built up a portfolio of basically what I would want to do if I was a comic book cover artist, and made these sort of mock covers of the Fables book actually, and submitted it to the DC talent search that they used to do. And I was lucky enough to meet with one of their editors and sort of got my first job that way. And ever since then, I've just been trying to just keep working mostly in comics. I was just really lucky to get my first job not long after college, so I was really fortunate for that. I just try to do really like quick lines, try to keep them clean, and sometimes even just try to do really long, smooth lines for your piece. It's important to know like you don't have to draw every strand. I almost think of hair like big pieces of ribbon growing out of your head. And just kind of show the different chunks of hair, not worry so much about individual hairs, if that makes sense. So many of opportunities I've gotten are from San Diego Comic-Con, And just recently, yeah, I'm doing a line of toys, or statues, I should say, for the DC Artist Alley. So excited about that. There's gonna be a Wonder Woman, a Hawk Girl, a Batgirl, and a Supergirl, and I can't wait for those to come out. That's probably something I'm most proud of right now. Okay, so to start doing the colors, or I should say the grayscale colors, I love using Copic markers. They're almost like a watercolor, but in marker form, and you could really get a nice variation of all the different tones. And they basically start with numbers going from lightest to darkest. So to do her skin tone, I'm starting with a warm 0, and I just kind of start to fill in all the darkest areas and then push towards the lightest areas. These markers are great. At first, they're kind of expensive, but you can actually buy refills and refill them so that way they last. I mean, these have lasted me over, I want to say like 6 or 7 years. So they're a little bit up front, but will last you a really long time. So you can see the warm 0 is a really light color, and I just gradually build up. I typically only use the odds. I don't go, 1, 2, 3, 4. I just do like 1, 3, 5, 7. So I moved up to a 1 to get a little bit darker color, and just pushing the shadows, going under the eyes, because you really want to make the eyes kind of pop out. And then around the nose, I don't really like to ink the lines around the nose. I just try to keep it, especially on a girl, you want to keep like her features soft. So I just use the marker to kind of bring out the shape of her nose. And then you can go underneath different parts to make a shadow. And then the darkest I go is probably a warm 3. And that's just to really kind of, I'm almost like inking with the warm 3, and it gives it a nice soft, crisp edge. And then her lips, again, the same thing. I don't like to ink the upper lip. I just kind of like almost paint it in with a darker color. That way it just gives it a softer overall look and not such a harsh line. And again, I'm just keep going over the darkest parts, like all the shadows. And then once I kind of have the darkest parts, everything is sort of not blended, I'll go back with a warm 0 and just go over everything one more time to kind of blend everything back together now that you've put the darkest colors. That way it looks much more blended. The face is so important. If you don't get the face right, then you'd have to start over. So I always try to make sure I get the face right and do that part first, because it would be terrible to do a whole piece and then you mess up the face and then you gotta go back right from the start all over again. I typically do the skin tones in warm gray, and then for the eyes, I'm moving now to a cool gray. And I use a cool 0 to fill in the white of the eye, because even though it's the white of the eye, it's actually not, bright white. You want to make it a little bit gray. That way it shows like some depth. And then using a cool 3, just doing a little shadow underneath the eye. And this kind of helps those eyes become a little bit more believable. And then going up to a cool 5, I fill in the iris. One thing I always like to do is I go back over with my mechanical pencil. And by the way, I use an orange color or an orange lead. And I just go back, and from the bottom of the eyes, I just do this little this glow coming from the eyes, just to give some variation in the gray colors. And then I'll even go over where, the red of the nose or the red of the cheeks, and just bring some of that warmth into her face. So I'm pretty happy with the face, and now I'm just gonna finish up the rest. So I go back with a warm one to finish up the rest of her body. I try to leave white areas where there would be a shine, like on her shoulders. That way it just gives it a little bit more dimension. And then same basic concept, I'm just moving down now to a darker color and then a darker color, and just bringing out the shadows and really kind of sculpting out her skin. I've definitely drawn quite a few Harley Quinns and quite a few Batgirls. Those are probably the two most requested, which are both characters I love, so I'm totally fine drawing them, you know, over and over again. And it's cool too because they have so many outfits, and both characters have gone through so many iterations, so it's really kind of fun to, you almost like get to learn a lot about these characters when people ask you to draw them so often, because you have to kind of do your research. And I love when people ask me to draw characters I've never heard of, because it's really fun to kind of get to know new characters that some people are just really passionate about and like are their favorite characters. So to do, I guess, shiny textures, like this part of her outfit is like almost like a metal. I just do kind of blocky parts like this to show little highlights in the armor. And then going up to like a really stark contrast, you know, maybe like a warm 5, and just almost doing like little lines to just show that this is like a metallic surface, but leaving some of the white so it really kind of pops out. And then I always go back and like blend it. And blending is pretty easy with these. I just go back with the color I originally started with and just kind of put the two colors together. Trying to remember what the pattern was on her shield, but I'm just kind of winging it right now. Since her armor here is red, I'm just gonna go over with my pencil and just kind of show a hint of color. Even though my pencil is orange, it kind of, once the drawing is finished, it kind of reads as a red, so I just like giving a little hint of different colors in the whole piece. Okay, so to do her hair, I'm actually gonna go back now with a brush pen, just because her hair is black, so I want to make sure that the color is not marker, it's like a true black. And I just do almost like I'm filling in the individual strands, but like I was saying before, I try to think of hair as ribbon, so if ribbon has a shine, the shine's going to be kind of right in the middle. So that's what this white part is right here, and I'll go over again with marker, but for now I'm just trying to lay out the different dimensions in her hair. You could add little breaks in between the shine. And I always leave a little white area here. I'll go back with marker, but just to show the break in the section of her hair. It looks kind of funny right now, but when the markers are put on top of it, it'll make a lot more sense. Okay, so now that the base of the black hair is blocked in, I'm gonna go back with, I'll start with a cool 5, and I'm just going over these highlighted areas. That way it's not such a bright white, but it still shows the shine and the dimension of the hair. So I think I'm at a pretty good place, and one thing I like to do once the drawing is close to being finished, I actually kind of just do a thick outline around the whole thing. It just kind of brings everything together, and it gives you a chance to kind of look over and see if there was anything that you might have missed and some things you might want to fix or just go over maybe, but like I'll just add little hair strands like that just to break up the silhouette. You can also like go back and add little details now too. Yeah, that's basically it. And I'm Chrissie Zullo, and this is my Wonder Woman.